Welcome back to Bird's Eye View. When it comes to the Orioles, this podcast is your official source for a lack of insight into baseless opinion. Today is February 12th, 2026. This is episode 421. My name is Scott Magnus.
And I'm Jake English.
And on this week's show, well, we're in the best shape of our lives going into our mid-40s.
Boys in shorts.
As we head into spring training. We may not be in shorts anymore. We may just be in like compression leggings and lots of ice, but...
Boys in shorts. We'll also share some thoughts about some recent Orioles signings, and we'll try not to rant, and we'll try not to rave.
But let's go ahead and leave the batter's box now, and let's go around the bases. So starting us off at first base, Jake, the Orioles have, quote-unquote, completed another offseason where they've made plenty of acquisitions. They've gone out there and really solidified their rotation by going and getting 3 starting pitchers, going out and getting 2 veteran bats for power in the lineup, going out and getting a new closer and a new setup man for the pen. They've gone out there and gotten a super utility player that can play both the infield and the outfield, unlike Jorge Mateo. And yet, it doesn't quite seem like enough. And I ask you, Jake, why does it feel this way?
If the Baltimore Orioles were to hop up on an aircraft carrier and unfurl a banner behind them, it would not read mission accomplished. It would read mission acknowledged. The Orioles acknowledged that they had holes. They acknowledged that they had problems that they needed to solve in order to compete in the AL East and, nay, I say, in the AL and in the playoffs. They said, we need to do something about an offense that was lackluster at best when it shouldn't have been. And we need to do something about this really uninspiring rotation. And that, yes, means a front of the line starter. They were explicit about that.
They said it specifically. We need to go get a frontline starter.
And so, look, they have done some things, and I appreciate all of that. But let's be real. The Orioles went out and got Pete Alonso to address what they hope will be the lineup problem. They got Taylor Ward to shore up some offense in the outfield. And then they're going to hope that the rest of the stuff falls in line, right? They're going to hope that Gunnar Henderson comes back from having an impinged shoulder. They're going to hope that Adley Rutschman comes back. They're going to hope that Samuel Basayo can develop. They're going to hope that Beavers can develop. They're going to hope that Jackson Holliday's haymate bone does not keep him out forever. They're going to hope that Jordan Westberg can stay healthy for an entire year. They can hope that Tyler O'Neill's neck is not going to be a problem. They're going to hope, they're going to hope, they're going to hope, they're going to hope. But they did land a huge piece in the offense in the Polar Bear in trying to address that. Then they turned their attention to the starting rotation, and man, they just didn't. They just didn't. And there were so many guys out there this offseason that were, I will say, uninspiring to the fact that you look at them and you say, yeah, I know that they're going to get frontline money this year, but are they really frontline guys? I know that you and I have had plenty of conversations about, well, is Framber Valdez really the guy? Is Ranger Suarez really the guy? But the Orioles ended up with Chris Bassett. I'm going to say this, Scott. Chris Bassett is not the guy.
Yeah.
Chris Bassett is not the guy. And so we're in a position of having to hope with the starting rotation. And to me, that is not doing the job. I thought that Shane Baz was an amazing pickup. I think it is a great trade. I think that Shane Baz raises the floor of our rotation. But I don't think they did a whole lot to open up the possibilities, the opportunities for the ceiling. Because it's, again, hope. We got to hope that Kyle Bradish is going to recreate the one season. He's only had one great season.
Yep.
We got to hope that Trevor Rogers can recreate a magical season, half season. We've got to hope that Shane Baz is what we think he is. We've got to hope that Chris Bassett doesn't fall off the table. We got to hope that Zach Eflin's back doesn't fall apart. We got to hope that there are enough innings left for Dean Kramer, who might be the only guy that actually does the thing that we hope he does in being a great number 5 starter. They acknowledged the problem and then they didn't fix it. Mission acknowledged.
Yeah, I get it. And like I said, I remember when Eflin was signed, I texted you and I'm like, it would be really easy for them to say, like, we're done and we don't now need to make the aggressive move. And, they came out afterwards and said, look, we're still looking. We're still trying to improve on this roster and this rotation. But it kind of felt like after they signed Eflin to me that they were going to be like, okay, it's possible they're going to go out and sign somebody. But it seemed like it was going to be a lot easier for them to fall back and be like, we're not going to spend the money of a top of the rotation standpoint. We're going to, fall back into old habits and get it. Now, listen, I think they went out there and I think they made a competitive offer to Ranger Suarez. I think, the Red Sox outbid the Orioles and the Orioles were left basically sitting with, well, why didn't you come back and ask us? I think this is, again, another lesson learned. And I thought, we had potentially learned this in previous seasons, which is you need to go in with a really big offer and you're probably going to overpay, but you're going to get the player. And I think we saw that with Pete Alonso. You looked at the contract and you're just like, I'm excited to have Pete Alonso. It's probably an overpay. The back end of the contract is probably going to be pretty bad. You're probably at, negative $30 million compared to what it should have been. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have probably at least 3 years of Pete Alonso being really good. And I think that's the thing that bothers me. I think the offer that I heard was I think the offer of Ranger Suarez $115 million. The Red Sox obviously settled at $130 million. I think $150 million makes sense as it relates to a spreadsheet. But I think you have to go in there and really blow someone's socks off and be like, we're not going to give you an option to go and look elsewhere because if you leave now, this offer is completely gone and off the table. So listen, I still think this comes back to you look at last season, you look at 2024, again, playoffs team. You look at 2023, playoff team. This is the best rotation that the Orioles have had in the entire era here with Gunnar and Adley. I am very excited about this rotation. I think Boz is going to have a huge upside. I think Bass is going to be a really good veteran arm to add to the rotation. But I get where you're coming from. Bradish pitched 30 innings last year. That's got to be concerning. And like you said with Rogers pitched, 110? Concerning. But I'm excited to see them load up with above, call it 2.0 WAR pitchers. If they weren't able to go out and get we'll call it the 4.0 WAR pitchers in a Framber Valdez or a Dylan Cease or a Ranger Suarez. The problem that I end up with is the AL East, except for the Yankees, which was nice, also reloaded. And the division absolutely looks like a juggernaut. I love what the Orioles did this year. I think they were super aggressive. I think they made a ton of moves. Just missing that one piece puts a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm sure it puts a sour taste in your mouth. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to be right there with all the AL East teams. But with making that one additional move, they would have been the clear favorite in the AL East. And I think that's the only thing that bothers me. It's not enough to basically have it be like last year was just like, this was an utmost failure of an offseason. But it doesn't make me really like, this was a great offseason. This, falls into the category of a B for me. It's not bad. There's a lot of bad things that you did right, but you couldn't do the one primary objective, and that's frustrating.
Yeah, but I don't want to go back to the well too much, but I feel like it was the only thing that mattered. I feel like there's a better chance of the 2025 lineup as it was bouncing back than there is the 2025 pitching rotation taking a step to be meaningful. The real hole was starting pitching. And the other thing is, I feel like
I agree that the pitching was bad, but the offense was also like everything last year was bad. Like it was bad. In fact, I think we made this joke at the end of the season. It was ugly is the best way to put it.
But the other thing is that I think you have made this statement many times, and I'm finally starting to come around to it. It takes a different kind of skill in roster construction to win in a 162 game format than it does in a 3-5-7-7 format.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that the Orioles did anything to make themselves potentially a juggernaut in the 3-5-7-7 format.
Completely agree. I mean, I think it's a standpoint of like you are still potentially in a weird position in terms of who is going to be your game two starter. I mean, I think Bradish he's going to have a good season this year. I think you're going to have to balance his innings, but I think he's your game one starter in a playoff series. But who is going to be your game two starter? It could be Rogers, but you have to hope that Rodgers is going to basically be the same as he was last year, which I don't think is going to be the case. He'll see some regression, but is it Boz? Is Boz your game too? Could be, but again, you're absolutely right. You're looking for a lot of upside from a lot of players, but again, overall, I'm not saying it's a failure, but I'm saying it would have been nice to go out and get one more big name that would have been an easy be like, he's either an SP1 or SP2. And I feel like we fell back into the tendency of like, we're going to go out and get a bunch of SP3s and 4s. And I did think that's different than last year where we got a bunch of 5s and 6s. So again, I do think it's an improvement over last year. So like, don't get me wrong. I think this was a really good offseason. But again, it was an incomplete offseason without getting that top rotation arm.
I'm willing to admit my bias in the fact that I am 42 years old. I was born in 1983, the last year the Orioles won the World Series. I have lived through the dark ages. I lived through a really fun buckle up birds era and a really miserable rebuild. And I'm at the point where I am tired of waiting.
Sure.
I'm tired of waiting for the next great Orioles team. I thought that we were on that path. I thought that after the rebuild, it was very evident that the Orioles were going that way.
You had the foundation. You had Gunnar and Adley, and you're like, great, there's our superstars that are going to take us into this next era of Orioles baseball.
It is no longer evident to me that we are going that way because the Orioles haven't done the thing that they needed to do to add on to all the great work that they did with the drafting and the trading. I'm not saying that the number one starters that were out there were the solution.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that this team doesn't look like the slam dunk, the home run that I'm waiting for.
And it was a tease. You went into winter meetings, you got Pete Alonso, and you're like,
sure,
this is going to be a different winter than previous winters. And
think about this. In the preseason that preceded the 2005 season, it wasn't that we got Miguel Tejada. It was that we got Miguel Tejada and Javi Lopez and Rafael Palmeiro back. It was bam, bam, bam. It was an off season of hits. Pete Alonso was great. But a Pete Alonso signing does not make an off season of hits.
Sure.
I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I completely understand what you're saying, which is like, it was great to see them go get Alonso and solidify it, but there needed to be one more big purchase. And again, Boz is nice, but there needed to be one more additional big name coming in.
And I feel like that if they had done the damn thing,
sure,
I would have said they tried.
Yeah.
And they would, even if it didn't work, I would have defended the approach.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Are you willing to defend the approach that they took?
No.
Okay.
I am willing to say that it might still work. Maybe all the we hopes, enough of them happen that this team is much better.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely hopeful that some of that happens. My frustration is that hope is not a method, except if you're the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah. I think I'm willing to, like I said, I think I understand what they were trying to accomplish. Overall, as a whole, I like what they did. Missing out on a top rotation arm does bother me. But at the end of the day, when I look at this roster as constructed, this is the best roster that we've had since Adley and Gunnar have appeared in this organization. I feel like this is the first year where Mike Elias really did what he was tasked to do in an official manner, but just not, he didn't cross the finish line.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Bassett was not plan A or B.
No, it was plan
or
F.
Right.
Yeah.
The Orioles' inability, and it's hard not to lay that at the feet of Mike Elias, but let's just say the Orioles' inability to execute on plans A through R is frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially when you went out and you got Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso talked about the plan. I guarantee he was not courted to the Orioles with visions of Chris Bassett.
No, I'm sure not. But again, we'll see what happens. The trade deadline will come. You could always potentially get someone.
Sure.
But again, you're going into the first half of the season. In reality, the first 4 months of the season, it's not even the first half of the season, with what you have, and we'll see what happens. Let's pop away from that for a moment, and let's talk about
mission acknowledged.
Yeah. Let's talk about second base. So in classic Mike Elias standpoint, we have begun the season with injury announcements.
What?
Yeah, I know. It was shocking. We were told that Jackson Holliday is dealing with a hamate injury, who just had surgery today. So that's a 6-week to 8-week recovery.
That is a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
In these parts.
Jordan Westberg is recovering from an oblique.
Oblique. That's a quick injury, and it will never be a problem ever again.
And then Colin Selby is noted to be dealing with shoulder inflammation. And that kind of opens up a spot for a pen battle going into spring training.
I think in a future episode, we'll talk a little bit about what we expect the roster construction to be.
Absolutely.
I am curious how much Colin Selby's injury is really impactful for the Major League roster.
I think it is. I think people were saying that, Selby was probably one of your first or second last spots. So I think it's definitely opens up a little bit of a battle for potentially getting someone into the bullpen sooner rather than later. But in a scale of things, Jake, how do you take this news compared to prior years, and how nervous are you about these injuries lingering throughout the rest of the season?
So I'm a little nervous about the lingering aspect. What I can say after all that whining that I just did about the roster construction, I am shockingly comfortable with the fact that if the Orioles have to start the season without Jackson Holliday, there is reason to think that that's okay. And what's worse or better...
Why do you feel okay?
Let's say it's worse than that. Let's say that the Orioles are without Jackson Holliday for opening day, and Jordan Westberg is not either quite what he needs to be.
Needs another week or so.
Or is not available.
Yeah.
We just went out and got Ramon Urias plus in Blaze Alexander.
Sure.
Who can, I think, credibly in a Major League environment, hold down the fort for a little while.
Defensively.
Yep.
Maybe not offensively.
Right, but defensively.
Yeah.
And I think that a guy like Jeremiah Jackson can hold down the fort for a little while. And I think that the rest of the work that Mike Elias did in the offseason should, capital S, should, make it to the point where the margin of error of having two big pieces like Holiday and possibly Westberg is survivable for a little while.
Sure.
I think that part is okay. I'm terrified of what the bullpen is going to be. And so if you're telling me, and I'm not as smart as you are, but if you're telling me that Colin Selby is going to be a big part of the bullpen, that's where I start to get nervous.
Absolutely.
But am I crazy to think that the Orioles can survive the start of the season without one and possibly two of those guys?
I think they can get by without one. Two starts to scare me. And I'll tell you why. I don't think Jeremiah Jackson is going to be your third baseman.
Scott Magnus, Jeremiah Jackson was touched by the hand of God in 2025.
He was, and he hit the ball extremely hard, and
that's going to continue for the rest of time.
Of course. However, you have a former top 100 prospect without a position to play. I don't see how Kobe Mayo would not end up at third base once again.
That's true. How awful is it that I forgot that Kobe Mayo and Ryan Mountcastle existed?
That's terrible of you. We're going to get to that at home plate. But I think, you look at it and you say, Kobe Mayo is never going to go over to first base for the next 5 years because Pete Alonso is there. And then Basayo is going to play first base on occasion as well.
And maybe Adley.
So Kobe Mayo's options now are I can play third base or I can play corner outfield in the future.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Can he pitch?
No, he cannot.
That's a problem for us.
So, I think I agree with you. I'm not super concerned. Honestly, I'm not super concerned about either one. I look at Jackson Holliday. The surgery is going to go on. A recovery from a hamate is typically 45 days. I think he's going to be back mid-April.
Oof. 45 days.
So, funny story. I think it was the Tampa Bay Rays reporter, Jason Collette, I think it is, or something like that. He did a data standpoint for hamate injuries and recovery in terms of days in ISO. He did this for a shortstop within the Tampa Bay organization that shall not be named anymore.
We do not speak his name.
We do not speak his name. But in his data set, do you know who was the individual who hurt his hamate but came back to the game super quickly? Quicker than anybody else in Major League Baseball.
Nick Markakis.
No.
Oh. No, who?
Mark Reynolds. 18 days.
I was so close.
You're so close. I do think Holiday coming back mid-April. We'll have to see what the power situation is. Some players lose power. Some players don't. I think Westberg is the concern for me on a long-term basis.
The word oblique scares the crap out of me.
The word oblique scares me. And then again, this is becoming a tendency now with Westberg. He is always getting these soft tissue. I mean, let's not go back to spring training and be like, well, I got injured because I slept on a bed, an improper bed. I understand that for us in our 40s, you're a Major League Baseball athlete. That should not be happening.
I was going to say, I threw my back out in November, and I know what it's like to get hurt just by living, but a 20-something ball player should not have that problem.
So Westberg scares me more than Holiday does. Like I know Holiday is going to be out for a longer period of time than Westberg, but as you said, obliques have a tendency to linger. We saw that last year with Adley as well. And I get concerned about Westberg. What is that going to do to his production? Is he going to be having, constant lingering IL stints? And I just raised the question. I'm like, yes, Blaze Alexander could be a utility infielder and he can kind of serve great, but do you want him out there as an everyday player? I would say no. And then who is a person that you could potentially platoon with Blaze and or play the majority of games instead of Blaze?
You don't want to hear the answer.
Ramon Urias?
I was going to say Terran Vavra.
He is still around. But I do think the Orioles are going to look at Mayo really extensively because ultimately, I don't think the Orioles want to send him down. I think they're going to want to try to keep him on the roster. They're not going to want to, option him. And I think they're going to try to figure out where can Mayo play as that potential third baseman and or corner outfielder in the future.
Having gone on record to say that I think that the Orioles can do
I don't think it's going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. But I think they're going to try.
Being able to do without those guys for a period of time, I also think means that they're not going to rush either one of those guys.
Great.
And that does fill me with a bit more confidence than maybe I should.
All right, so going to third base, the Orioles have announced that Masson will be broadcasting up to 20 games this spring for spring training and have offered their season ticket or season TV package for $99.99 for cord cutters. Also, since the last time we met, Jake, the Nationals will no longer be on Masson. And now over 2/3 of the league have now moved to this kind of direct-to-consumer streaming and market through MLB TV, including the Orioles, with the remainder now offering streaming through their own platform. So my question to you is Masson on its last leg? And is this kind of a last-ditch effort by Major League Baseball organizations to gather metrics and info in advance of a CBA?
I don't know about that last part. I will admit that
streaming is obviously going to be the future.
Right.
Like, there's no doubt about it.
I think when it comes to the CBA, you are far more plugged in on that than I am. Here's what I will say. Masson's deal with Fios and Comcast has not yet come to an end.
Yep.
To the point where every subscriber is paying, $3
Sure.
or whatever it is for Masson. When that ends, Masson will effectively end.
Yeah.
I am shocked that Masson 2 is still on the air.
I can't believe it. I have no idea why.
Maybe there's an effective date for the deal with the Nats, right? And I joked on Blue Sky, it was the Nationals that did the leaving in the fire swamp. But the minute that happened, I would have shut down Masson 2 immediately. And I don't know what deals they have with rodeo and, small basketball teams.
Yeah.
And so, maybe there's more complicated stuff that we're not aware of. But I think that, yes, Masson is on its last legs, but they're going to suck every last dollar out of cable subscribers that they're already, quote unquote, entitled to. And I think that in addition, they're going to try to provide a product for cord cutters to do two things. One, get as much of that revenue as possible, but two, to try to make the case that the Orioles' rights are still valuable.
Correct. Again, I think it's an interesting standpoint because just like you said before, like for the cable users out there in the world, and I'm thinking about
both of them.
I mean, there's a lot of folks that are, we'll call it, older than us that are still using cable pretty often. But again, if you think about it and you're like, okay, for an entire year, I have my cable bill. I'm paying, I think it's up to $4 now for the regional distribution network. But it's $4 times 12.
Inflation.
Yeah. So again, you're at $48. The Orioles are charging for their season ticket plan $100. Again, for us on cord cutter standpoint, I would definitely pay $100 over paying for cable. There is certainly an incentive to get people over to streaming as opposed to continuing to rely on cable going forward. As well as you've got the nice sweetheart deal with ESPN right now. And again, I think it's only a matter of time before Major League Baseball assumes all local TV rights and then bundles it together for a big package.
Dumb question. Again, you're better at this than I am. Major League Baseball just sold off Advanced Media.
Yes.
Did Advanced Media include MLB TV?
Yes, I believe it did.
So when we talk about the 14 teams or whatever that are with MLB.TV,
yes,
that's not MLB raking in the money from that.
Well, they still are getting the money. So they're basically offered the data and the package and everything for somebody else on that basis. So like MLB is still collecting that money because again, if you think about it from a TV rights standpoint, the clubs have to get that money. Yes, the platform was sold, but that doesn't mean the distribution rights are not going back to the clubs at Major League Baseball.
Okay. I would be interested to see how all this worked if MLB still owned Advanced Media.
Sure. That sounds like a good topic for a future interview to really get to the heart of that, is the best way to put it.
You mean we should probably talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about?
I don't know if anybody knows what they're talking about for this one, but
do you think that more people will watch Orioles games this season than, say, the last 3 seasons? I want to throw 2025 out because it was a crap season, but let's include 2024, which was interesting but unspecial, and a very special 2023.
I think if the Orioles win, just like we've said from an attendance standpoint, I think as long as the Orioles win, TV viewership will respond accordingly.
Are you saying that this is an important year for the Orioles and maybe they should have tried to make sure that they had a winning product on the field?
I think that should be the case for any MLB team, but yes, for the Orioles as well.
Weird.
All right, going into home plate. While everyone is excited about spring training, it typically means nothing. Let's not forget about the spring training god himself, Jacob Quinn Fox.
Is his middle name really Quinn?
His name is actually Quinn.
J.Q. Fox?
J.Q. Fox. I pulled this up just to be like, what is Jake Fox's God-given name?
I'm sorry. You did research, and the research that you did for this program is what is Jake Fox's government name?
Absolutely.
Jeez a whiz.
I also pulled up his spring training stats. So in 27 games, he hit 297, 325, and 797 with 10 homers and 7 doubles. And that averaged out to 60 dingers over 162 game season.
Listen, I appreciate all the numbers that you just spit out, but you know that none of them matter except for the 10 wind-assisted home runs.
Absolutely.
It was the 10 home runs that got Jake Fox.
And the ball's up in the air, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and somehow that's a home run.
That's what earned, Jake Q. Fox a spot on in the roster. Let me ask you this before we go any further.
Yeah.
Who wins the Jake Fox Award for 2026's spring training?
Oh, well, I think that gets great into our next topic of like people to watch and names to look at.
No. Who hits the most dogs?
Oh, who hits the most
That's
dogs?
the Jake Fox Award. Who hits the most spring training home runs?
Okay, so it's not going to be Gunnar because Gunnar's going to be going at the WBC.
Mm-hmm. It's not going to be Jackson Holiday.
It's not going to be Jackson Holiday. I'm going to give you a one that I think it's going to be, and it's going to PO you. Tyler O'Neill.
I would actually... I can't decide if I would be delighted or not.
Yeah.
I might be delighted if Tyler O'Neill showed signs of life. Because, hang on, full tangent. I just railed about how pissed I am about the Orioles offseason.
Yeah.
And how hope is not a method. I am so broken, though, that I fully acknowledge that Tyler O'Neill might be a productive ball player this year. And all of the things that we said before last season might be true this year. Tyler O'Neill could mash the ball this year. It could be. It is within the realm of reasonable possibility.
The year of Tyler O'Neill?
That Dylan Beavers has a hard time getting on the field because Tyler O'Neill and Taylor Ward are hitting the ball Wicked had. That is a real statement that
Are we doing Boston accents this season?
It may happen.
Yeah.
Both of those things may happen. I'm just saying, like, that real thing exists. So the Jake Fox Award going to Tyler O'Neill.
Tyler O'Neill.
I'm not sure how I feel about it, but
that's going around a lot lately.
It's possible. Yeah. My award winner, Samuel Basayo.
We'll see about that, but yeah, he's got power. There's no doubt about it.
We should let's open this up to the listeners. Please let us know who's your
Jake Fox Award winner prediction.
Your Jake Q. Fox
JQ.
Award winner.
Yes.
But you and I know this is not Fantasy Boss, but you and I have to
We'll take a look at the end.
Maybe off the mics, we got to put something on this. Whether it's a nice bottle of something or we have options here. I'm sorry. What did you want to talk about that wasn't Jake Fox?
So I wanted to talk about a few players or battles that are going to be going on this spring training that maybe we're going to ask you to, in quote, open up your eyes now and tell me what you see.
Oh, I love it. Seasons 1 through 5 of Bird's Eye View, by the way, was mostly just how are we going to squeeze an Oriole or a Beatles song into this episode.
You're welcome.
You just won.
Yep, you're welcome.
You won this episode.
So we alluded to this before, but like you've got 2 right-handed first basemen. Well, technically you have 3, but you have 2 that are not going to be playing as a starting role in Kobe Mayo and Ryan Mountcastle. And the question is, who makes the opening day roster between Kobe Mayo and Ryan Mountcastle? I think it's the question of like, can Kobe Mayo play another position? If he can play another position, I think he makes the opening day roster. If he can't play another position, I think he goes to Norfolk to figure out how to play a position. But I think this is a big spring training for him to prove like, hey, I could be a bench spot and I could come in and play a serviceable third base, or I could go into the outfield in a late inning game, and I wouldn't be an absolute disaster.
Yeah. The other thing is one of the things that did Brandon Hyde in was his options on the bench.
Of course.
Right. I think between the two of them, Kobe Mayo has the greater upside.
Okay.
I think from a positional flexibility standpoint, it's not a lot.
Agree.
But it's greater than Ryan Mountcastle. I also think that I love Ryan Mountcastle, the person, has not been impressive the last couple of years.
I think this comes down to is like I don't think there's anything that Ryan Mountcastle can do good or bad here. I think he is a known quantity.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the spring of Kobe Mayo to in essence say like I'm going to prove that I belong on the opening day roster, and I'm going to force you to release Ryan Mountcastle as part of this decision.
I think that Kobe Mayo's ability to make the squad coming out of spring basically comes down to, can the Orioles move Ryan Mountcastle for a bullpen piece?
Yeah. I mean, they have released players before that are been much more than Ryan Mountcastle and just ate the salary.
Sure.
So like, this is not like the Angelos regime of like, we're just going to be stubborn. The Orioles have ate money before. I think it makes sense, like you're saying, that they would try to trade or, come up with some arrangement on that basis. But I do think this is a big spring for Kobe Mayo to prove that he can have a spot on this opening day roster where he can be something besides a first baseman and DH.
Sure.
You talked about the bullpen, and I think there's going to be a bullpen battle specifically for who is going to be the optional relief pitcher. And I think we'll see some of these names cycle through, but like Yenier Cano is there. He still have 2 options left. So for some reason,
how is that possible?
You've got Chase McDermott, who again we've seen, but again he was converted over into the bullpen in Norfolk at the end of last year.
Can we stop there for a second?
Sure.
Tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm sure I am.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong to not really believe in Chase McDermott as a reliever.
So I think if you look at his current, we'll call it pitch repertoire, and you look at his velocity that was as a starter, it's like not bad, but not a wow. If you're going out there as a relief pitcher, you can bump your velocity and you have 2 really good pitches. You could be a really good relief pitcher.
So you think that taking him from a starter to a max effort pitcher
absolutely
takes him over the
hump. And again, 2 good pitches. Like you do not need to have multiple good. You don't need to have 3 or 4 good pitches as a relief pitcher. If you've got 2 good pitches as a relief pitcher, and you've got call it 96 plus velocity, you can be an effective reliever. I'm not saying you're going to be Felix Bautista, but you could be a serviceable 6th or 7th inning guy.
As a lefty who had no good pitches,
yep,
I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got, speaking of lefties, you've got Grant Wolfram, who again, you're looking for someone that can effectively get lefties out. Keegan Aiken does not get lefties out effectively. So you're looking for someone that potentially could be your loogie. Grant Wolfram could be that individual. The one person I think is going to be it is, and the Orioles acquired him, last year, was Anthony Nunez from the Mets organization. I think Nunez has a really good chance with his stuff. I think he's going to get optioned and someone's going to come up for him on occasion. But I think Nunez has the potential to be a breakthrough candidate in the bullpen. So I'm really interested to watch him in spring training this season.
I got to be honest. Helsley, Kittredge, Tyler Wells.
Yeah.
Outside of those three,
those are your three.
I don't have a great deal of trust in the rest of the bullpen. And so all the rest of the names are just names. And let's be clear.
Yeah.
Grant Wolfram has the best name.
Sure.
But the rest of those guys, you're right. The competition, wide open.
Wide open.
Do you think, I'm going to put you on the record right here. Do you think the Orioles have the organizational depth to build a bullpen?
I do.
You do?
I do. I would like to see one, if I again, coming back to the offseason standpoint, if I could have asked for one additional thing in the bullpen, it would have been, I wish they would have gone out and got someone that could really effectively get lefties out, like guaranteed. But I think overall, like when you start looking through, your options, like, we talked about Chase McDermott. Cade Povich is going to be sitting there as well. Like you could potentially bring him up as a bullpen arm if you really wanted to. You've got a lot of options to potentially play with.
Is it too early to talk about the crunch in the rotation?
That's another good point, which is the standpoint if you have 6 starters, you may want to thrust one of your starters into a bullpen role. My personal opinion is, and I hate it from a concept standpoint, but you look at the innings that were pitched by Trevor Rogers and by Kyle Bradish last year, it may not be a bad idea to do a 6-man rotation at least in April or May. It's not a terrible move. I mean, I was actually looking at the Orioles' schedule. It's a weird one where they're you have 6 games and then you have a day off. And then you have 6 games, you have a day off. It could save you a few starts in the first beginning of the season to gear people up. You know me, I do not like a 6-man rotation, but I think that it might be a decent idea for the beginning of the season.
I hear that. 6-man rotation sounds good on paper.
Yep.
It also requires a dependable bullpen.
It does. And again, as we've talked about before, it also requires you to have long men in the bullpen. Can Tyler Wells be a long man? And then is there another individual that if you use Tyler Wells the night beforehand and you need to go to another long man, you could do so? That's what I think I'm looking for, is who potentially can be that multi-inning relief pitcher that if Boz comes out and only goes 4 innings, and then you say, okay, great, we're going to bring Wells in. And then Kramer comes out the next game and he only throws 4 innings. Who's going to be that multi-inning?
Scott, you don't have to worry about it. Those guys are going to go 7 every time. All 6 guys, 190 innings all season. 7 inning starts each time. Yeah. You don't have to worry about it.
So again, I think that the Orioles have enough depth, and I think it'll be an interesting spring training. I still think that there's a trade that's going to be made. We've seen this with the Lives before all the time. At the very end of spring training, he normally always gets a relief pitcher. I think we'll see a relief pitcher acquired at the end of spring training.
And for as much whining as I'm doing, acknowledging that that's the case, the Orioles only have to hold it together at a high level until the trade deadline, right? Yep. If this team is competing at a high level and the things are working well enough, maybe he does and go swing a trade that is meaningful for the off season at the trade deadline. That's a full possibility.
That is absolutely a possibility. And then my next question is, with the way the rotation is currently constructed, you're going to have gaps again next year. Eflin is going to be a free agent. Rogers is going to be a free agent. Bassett is going to be a free agent. So you're going to need to go out and get 3 people. Also, Dean is going to be going into his last year before becoming a free agent. So you're going to need at least 2 people to fill that rotation up. As we have seen with the Baltimore Orioles, they don't do a great job of getting people in free agency as a pitcher.
I have confidence, Scott.
You have confidence next year.
I have confidence that it will be mission acknowledged.
Well, I think it's an important time for us to start looking at some of this young talent and really making the determination again. Are they bullpen arms or are they potentially going to be starters? So Cade Povich obviously made a ton of starts last year. Is Cade Povich going to be a starter or is he going to be a rotation arm? Brandon Young, the same thing. He had that one game where he went 8 innings and, it was bookended by 2 other games that were really, really bad. So is Brandon Young a legitimate starter? And then you end up with other individuals that are, we'll call it non-roster invites, but are right there in your, we'll call it top 10 prospects. You've got Trey Gibson, Nestor German, and then you got Luis de Leon. That are all non-roster invites. I think those are the individuals I want to start seeing now in spring training and then watch through the year to say who, when someone gets injured in the rotation, is coming up and doing a spot start. It's going to happen. It's baseball. I mean, any single baseball team is going to go through 8 to 9 starting pitchers in a given season.
Yeah.
So even by having 6 starting pitchers in your rotation, you're going to probably need another at least 2 for the rest of the season.
The Orioles' success will be twofold. How often can they avoid Brandon Young, Cade Povich pitching, and how much can those guys answer the call when they're called?
I agree. And again, I don't know if Cade Povich is a starting pitcher. I think he could be a really good bullpen arm. And again, just like we talked about in terms of finding multi-inning relievers, I think Cade Povich could be a elite multi-inning reliever.
But to be clear, Ryan Mountcastle, Kobe Mayo can't pitch.
No, they cannot pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, they cannot pitch. I think that's all we have to cover around the bases. Anything else that you wanted to add?
On February 12th of 2026,
Yes.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, like I said, we have well over 6 weeks of spring training ahead of us. So we'll see what happens.
Speaking of spring training,
Yeah.
you're going to spring training.
Next week. Yeah.
Scott, I'm going to spring training.
Nice.
Early March.
Nice.
It's going to be fun.
How many daiquiri decks are you doing?
All of them.
All of them? All of them?
All of the daiquiri decks, a little bit of Captain Kurtz. Listen, listener, if you have not gone to Sarasota / Siesta Key, do it.
Do it.
Do it tomorrow. Do it the next day. Do it. It's a wonderful place.
I was looking at the weather for next week in Sarasota for the first game of the season on Friday, and it's 78 degrees. And I'm like, gosh, that's going to be terrible to be sitting at a baseball stadium in 78-degree weather with sun beaming down on my shoulders.
You're so brave.
So brave. So brave. With that, we're going to do what we do best, and we're going to go ahead and blow the save. So, Jake, we're going to talk about a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart. We're going to talk about journalism.
Sure. Okay. Near and dear.
Jake, as I believe a subscriber of this previous organization, I don't believe you are anymore. Oh, you still are? Well, that's I'm going to judge a little bit. What is your thought about the recent reallocation of resources at the Washington Post as a avid subscriber and purveyor of said media?
I think the Washington Post used to be easily one of the papers of record, and in the last 5 years has worked very hard to become not so.
Yep.
And I think losing its local sports coverage is a slap in the face to Post subscribers.
Yeah. I really enjoyed a lot of the local, teams and organizations recognizing lost Post members. I think everyone that is we'll call it a savvy media consumer, sees what is going on with the Post, sees what's going on with Jeff Bezos in terms of how he is allocating funds, and has to look at that as a joke of an organization and left in shambles. I was glad to see today that an announcement was made by the Baltimore, well, it's not even called the Baltimore Banner anymore, it's just called the Banner, that they're going to be expanding into DC for coverage of DC sports and other DC areas in the future.
I do feel bad. For Washington sports fans in the fact that they finally free themselves of the shackles of Masson. And suddenly the Banner is back.
Well, I mean, I just think it's probably a good instance where, DC has always been the sister child of Baltimore per se. And, it's good that they're back in that kind of, frame of mind.
I will say that, I went to school in DC. I have a lot of affection for that place. The Washington Post ceasing to be the Washington Post is
very sad.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's very sad.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. Hopefully that changes one day. But for the time being, it's extremely frustrating and sad.
And with that, that is our show. Remember, you can find this in our entire catalog of indispensable episodes at birdseyeviewbaltimore.com.
Bird's Eye View is available for download wherever it is you get your podcasts these days. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and many others. Please remember to rate and review the show. We appreciate the feedback and it encourages other people to listen for the first time.
Come and get social with us. You can email us at contact@birdseyeviewbaltimore.com, or you can check us out on social media all over the place, including where we are settling in very nicely, thank you, at Orioles Blue Sky. And with that, Baltimore and beyond, I'll bid you all a fond adieu.
Good night, Baltimore. Be safe out there, and let's go O's.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.